I was on one of the coolest opportunities offered at my school, the Insignis Retreat. And it was on here, on this pure Christian retreat, that I learned about hookup culture. As a pure, good Asian child, I hadn't much experience with this, you see. The whole past week, I was on cloud nine as this cute Asian girl had asked me to go to her prom, and I was on top of the world, like planning out my future and shit. And I thought I knew it all, but nah. My roommate on the retreat was a crew kid, and he's white. And if you know anything about white crew people, they see some wild shit. This mofo was telling me about going on a crew trip to Boston and getting high as shit right next door to their crew coaches. They'd have girls over, and they'd be all high as shit, representing our Christian school in their regalias. And he was telling me he'd seen these two SI senior twins, bad as shit, roll up to the local clubs every night they were in Boston. He'd see his best friends talk to some girls that deep down he'd have a crush on, but his friends would only be interested in hooking up. He'd tell me that deep down he'd wanted an actual relationship, but he'd always get nervous and could only talk to girls when he'd had something to drink. He'd see all these white girls at these parties drinking, and only then would he feel confident talking to them. Everyone there would be like hooking up, and the girls and the guys would be wild, and yet to him, it would never feel right. He never went along with it, even if he could. And he'd ask me, "What do you think about all of this?" And I remember responding, Asian girls aren't as wild. Maybe you should check them out. But I realized at the time, I had gotten it partially wrong, ladies. Yeah, Asians, y'all aren't as wild as the whites, but you're still up there. I have this one friend who's a bit of a wild guy. He's this Asian guy, and I'm not going into the detail like I'm kissing his ass or anything, but he has what we grown-ass men call unspoken riz. He's a nice looking dude, and he always talks about all the time all the girls he gets. Now, I find it kind of annoying. Like, come on, dude, is that all you talk about? Also, you have like 300 unreads a day? Is something up? Secret goth babe confirmed? But every once in a while, it's funny, and dare I say, interesting. So that girl I took to prom, her name was Jackie. And the funny thing was that the mofo from earlier also brought a girl to prom named Jackie. Both of these Jackies were our tries at having an actual active relationship. And for both of us, we fumbled. So me and him instantly got along. One day, we're just talking about this. It's been a couple months later, and we've moved on. We've grown and matured and shit. But like, we still think about this. And this is true, ladies. The guys do this hella. How could it have been different? This mofo, my friend, has like 20 DMs with 20 girls, and he still thinks about that one he took to prom. I was like, what? But it makes sense. You'll see. Anyways, talking about the Jackies brings us to just how our personal lives are. I'm in a situationship with this one person, and my guy's talking to this other girl. She's a junior at Calmont, and she reaches out to him out of the blue, and they start talking. They have a first date, and it goes well. I remember him telling me that before her, he was a quote, wild dude. he'd hook around and sleep around everywhere, getting his penis touched every Saturday, just in time for church on Sunday. He was in his self-quoted, self-described hoe phase. He's calling himself a hoe. And he has good looks, so it's easy for him. I remember I was like, yo, I had a hoe phase, but I'm just texting around, nothing crazy. Yo. And here's when I knew he was out of his hoe phase. He goes, and yet everything I did, everything, it was never enough. Every time I'd finish on her, I'd feel terrible. And deep down I'd realize I always want an actual relationship, but I'd be too scared. And I was like, word! That's why this mofo remains celibate with his prom girl. The one he still remembers. He abstained and did not tap at all, and look where that got him. He tells me that he's learned that there's more to life than just tapping or sleeping around. That there's school, extracurriculars, and shit that you can build from the ground up that is more worthwhile than hooking up. And that's why he's trying to actually have a relationship with this Columbine girl. And gonna keep his dick zipped up tight in his oversized pants for the time being. And I was like, amen. A couple of days ago, I caught up with him. I haven't been keeping up with him or anything over the break. And when I got back, imagine my surprise. This mofo was talking about door dashing some girl Plan B. I was like, yo, what the fuck? You got the Columbine Junior pregnant? But nah, it's just some other girl. To my surprise still. And I was like, what about that Columbine girl? And sadly, this mofo was like nonchalantly, I don't talk to her anymore. I was like, no, dude. I was actually rooting for him. Not saying hooking up is inherently bad, but if he noticed some in his life didn't feel right, he should make a change. And that's what I thought he did. But it turned out he folded like an omelet. And imagine my surprise when I heard what this recent commotion was about. So he hooked up with a girl, and then after that, he went to eat dinner with some friends when he got a text from her. Now, he had used protection, but this girl he tapped was apparently big into STEM, and she had an app that would track her menstrual cycle and tell her important information. Now, for everyone, that app sounds really important, so I'm surprised I haven't heard more about it. But anyways, after 2 days, she texts him in a goddamn panic, saying, hey, my app says I'm in my most fertile stage. You better give me Plan B. Now, if you don't know, mofos have about 36 hours to take contraceptives if something goes horribly wrong. My friend is long gone from her house or community, and there's barely any time on Amazon, so he frantically tries to DoorDash her Plan B before time runs out. And he just barely gets through this pregnancy scare and spends $50 of his own money buying her Plan B. While, the whole time eating dinner with his friends. I think we know who didn't pay that night. And I remember just laughing so hard because I thought the situation was so funny. And the whole time I remember thinking, I think the world's trying to tell him something. Maybe you need to pause, because you're starting the year off strong, shaking, and broke.